start, I would want to share a deck. So let me check if I can share the screen. Yes. Is it visible?
Yeah.
Right. So yes, we are here for the webinar Raising Resilient Children, Social and Emotional Learning in Early Years. Just need to go a little. Sorry about that. Well, before we start, let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Vasavvi Acharjya, an early childhood expert, trainer, audiopreneur, and social activist. And today we are talking about a very, very pertinent topic. And we all know that although we talk about the foundation of social emotional development from age 2 onwards, however, it can be traced back to pre-birth experiences of the fetus. And research has very clearly stated that success in later life is underpinned by socio-emotional development and being able to self-regulate. We are living in exceptional times. COVID-19 has usurped our lives in a phenomenal way, leaving each one of us completely off balance. Well, in such times, our children too have been affected in many ways. They are suddenly cooped up in their houses, not allowed to go out, meet with peers, etc. But change is the only constant in life, and being able to cope with change, being flexible, adapting to circumstances, counting our blessings are the skills one need to learn right from the early years. So I welcome you all to once again to this in-depth discussion on this very pertinent topic. And today we have a wonderful panel of experts who have joined us from India and Bangladesh. Let me introduce them to you. We have Ms. Jasmine Kumar, an award-winning entrepreneur, author of international bestseller, educationist, professional speaker, founder, Raise International Preschool, and national president, WICCI. A big welcome to you, Jasmine. We also have with us Ms. Nelly Ahmed, a futurist, education futurist and founder, managing trustee of Maria's Public School, Guwahati. She is the winner of many coveted awards like the Rajiv Gandhi Shiromani Award 2012 and Future 50 School Shaping Awards 2017. A big welcome to Ms. Nelly Ahmed. We also have with us, joining from Bangladesh, Ms. Zareen Mahmood, founder of Her Story Foundation, an organization that focuses on gender equality through storytelling. A big welcome to Ms. Zareen. And I welcome Ms. Malaya Hussain, who is joining us from Bangladesh and who is one of the founding members of Imam Group of Companies. She is the co-founder and executive director of Amra Romani, which promotes and connects women entrepreneurs. Welcome, Ms. Malaya. So today, let me stop sharing the screen. Well, so today we have the first round of opening questions, which is common for all our speakers present here today. And I would like to start with Ms. Jasmine. Ms. Jasmine, what is social emotion? Why do you think is social emotional learning important in the early years?
Thank you, Dr. Vasavvi and Alakananda, for organizing this webinar, which is on a much needed topic. See, social emotional learning, it's basically the process of developing and using the social and emotional skills to cope with the feelings, with the set goals, make decisions, get along with, and feel empathy for others. This is how I would put across social emotional learning being. Now, research has proven it many a times that people having strong social emotional skills, they are better equipped to manage the daily challenges, build positive relationships, and make their informed decisions. Now, SEL helps not just the children, but also the adults to thrive in school and also in their life. And the skills can be taught and learns from the preschool level all the way through the adulthood. Now, that's important because our children, they are not born knowing how to manage their emotions, solve the problems, and get along with others, isn't it? Now, these kind of skills, they have to be developed from the early years itself, and you can work to help your students learn them. Now, SEL as a term, it starts in early childhood, from birth going up till age 3, like you've made it in your introductory speech. Now, when young children, they learn how to regulate their emotions from the interactions of their parents. Children are often observed that, children who are born with emotionally attentive and the perceptive parents, they learn how to regulate their emotions more effectively than the children with parents who are less emotionally, stable. So they have to battle with these concepts as they grow older in their lives. So that's perhaps, being a parenting coach, I always tell the parents that children are entirely your reflection. Their behavior, what they observe in the environment around, how the kind of expressions they see on your face, this is what they imbibe, and this is what the same way they reflect back. So beginning early in life, SEL is highly, highly important for helping the toddlers and the preschool children to understand and manage their emotions, feel and show empathy for others. This is how I would like to put it across.
Thank you, Jasmine. And I would like to ask Ms. Nelly Ahmed the same question. Why is SEL important in early years? You have to unmute yourself.
In the child's life, in fact, by the Montessori system, we say their foundation stage is from birth to 3 years and beyond, 5 years. And this emotional and the intellectual growth and the motor skills growth comes only during the period when facilitators at the school environment, the parents are the main stakeholders who nurture the child and give them that feeling of being together, being loved, and having the emotional security in the child's life. And that is I feel, is the main factor. The moment, as my previous speaker, Jasmine, also mentioned the same thing, is the emotional concept in a child's mind, the body and the feel of, the parental handling of them, the empathy that they have in them. And that is how they'll grow up. And suppose for some reason they are lacking in any part of that growing up stage, they don't grow up to be steady human beings. I mean, steady adults, because this has been seen many a case, because parents have to be very, very careful when bringing up these kind of children, because that is the time when they may go astray and they are not detected early, or they're not comforted at that time when they need the love and attention. And that is what they need. We don't need toys and plastic things to show them that we love you. We don't need the TV, and we don't need the malls to go to. We need the attention of parents, the facilitators, and the helpers in the school environment, where we give them the comfort level. And that is where they will be growing up to be healthy, mentally secure adults. And that is what we want. When I have a high school, and when we see the children growing up to be independent workers, they are doing things on their own, they're independent decision makers, that's when we say that they have been given a very sound foundation level in the school or even in the home. And that is very important. That's the bottom line. And beyond that, of course, the other things follow. That's what my feeling is.
Thank you, Nelly Ahmed. And over to you, Malaya. What is your opening comment on this? You have to unmute yourself.
Unmute, please. Sorry. So to me, SEM aims to nurture a person's good character, one who's caring and acts responsibly, not only towards themselves, but also towards family, community, and nation. Some people may argue that children can learn morals or anything on their own, and preschool can be too early to learn the do's and don'ts in life, and can be overtaxing or overbearing for them. However, I think all of us here will unanimously agree that it is best to teach children values or ideas at a young age, as it can become a part of their persona when they grow up. Knowing good values like kindness, humility, compassion, courage help to build a child's character. It forms a core of their beings and becomes a foundation of their beliefs. That's why it's very important to start teaching them while they're still very young. At that point, they're more receptive and accepting to new ideas and beliefs. It is easier to mold them and help them to become the kind of person we want them to be.
Absolutely, Malaya. And your opening comment on this, Zareen, before we start the second round of questions.
Thank you. So as everyone has said, that SEL is very important and is a building block for building the children. But the children are the building blocks of a nation and of our world. And that's why SEL is important, because the right kind of social and emotional learning develops a child to make their decisions properly, have that empathy, show that empathy, and that is what we need in today's world. So when we are investing in a child now in the early years, we see the results. We will be seeing the results in 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road in our world, and for it to be a better place, it to be a reflection of the goodness that we are investing in our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Zareen. So we got an overview of why are the esteemed panelists today here who have been working with children in their early years for quite some time, and they have dedicated this time to understand why actually children need social emotional learning right from the start. Because yes, like everybody said, all our speakers mentioned how it is so important to regulate oneself, to understand one's emotions, to in fact kind of being able to adapt, because flexibility is really important. And in today's world, when we are suddenly faced with such unprecedented events happening, our children really need to have that spirit of coping up, and that they have to be motivated enough. So my question to Jasmine now, we'll have a detailed discussion. We're starting with round 2 of the questions. uh, Miss Jasmine, what kind of skills fall under the umbrella of SEL, and how may parents contribute in raising resilient children from early years? Over to
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Vasavvi. It's a very important question. Thanks for asking me. I think emotional management is the key in resilience. Parents must teach their kids 5 key skills. I would name them as self-awareness, self-management, decision-making, relationship management, and social management. And now I'm going to go deep dive into all these 5 skills. Now, if you talk about self-awareness, I personally feel that it's the most important skill which we must teach our children, because understanding your own emotions and thoughts and how your emotions influence your behavior in your day-to-day life is extremely important. I'll give you certain examples. You make your child understand that if for example, if the toddler is just throwing the toys away, why don't you make your child understand about their feelings? Ask them, think about it. Why are you feeling this way? Why are you angry? What kind of, and there are more questions which you have to make your child understand, as in how they're growing in their life. What are the areas that you are best at? What is the kind of a person that you want to be tomorrow? What stresses you out often? So by acknowledging these emotions and feelings, it helps children to move into action and respond constructively to those feelings. So that is what number 1 as a skill I would like to talk about. Second most important thing is the self-management. Now, self-management again is very, very important. It's an ability for you to regulate your emotions. So once you identify that how your emotions and behavior are leading to an action, so now you need to be able to regulate your emotions and the behaviors which comes into different situations. Like I gave an example, could be impulse control, stress management, your self-discipline, motivating yourself, goal setting, for example, organization skills, if we are talking about the adults also. Now, self-management is to also encourage a positive self-talk. For example, if your child is a little perturbed, while the child is in online classes, if the child has an important question to ask for the teacher, but the teacher says that, he or she does not have that much time to answer to your question. So what would be the instant reaction or the feeling of the child? The child is going to feel that, my question did not have that kind of a value enough that the teacher could not give me time to answer to my questions. So as a role of a parent who is sitting next to the child, and you must make the child understand that Why don't you take it this way? That, of course, it is a difficult question which you are not able to have the answer. You can't figure it out right now by your own self, but it will take time and you can learn. So it's all about inculcating positive thoughts, making the child learn the process of how to have a self-positive talk. So this is how I'd like to talk about self-management. Now, moving on to the third, again, very, very important aspect is the responsible decision making. As parents, we cannot always be there with our kids, right? Now, so the ability to make the positive choices, it's definitely the responsibility of the children going ahead, from identifying the problems, analyzing the situations, solving them, evaluating them, and reflecting upon them. Now, for example, why don't we ask our children, think about it, that our act, whatever we are doing right now, how is it going to impact others? Is my decision worth it? Is my choice right? Was this the strong choice? And how is this going to help me out? So once we encourage this, thought process, it really broadens the horizon of the children. And students, they thoughtfully generate solutions to the problems by thinking through the possible outcomes as well as the options, right? Now, fourth, again, which is again very, very important, is the social awareness. Now, the ability to make the perspectives of and empathizing with others is something which is very important. And the earlier that we start in teaching our kids, it definitely builds and gives them the right foundation. Now, social awareness, if I have to talk about, it may sound like that I wonder how that made him or her feel. I'm just giving you certain questions that, this is how we have to make our children feel and think. How would I feel if I were in that situation? They seem sad right now. Maybe I should help them. So it's all about, empathizing with others, trying to put yourself into other person's shoes and then reflect and, creating that social awareness for people in your surroundings, for your friends, for your siblings, for your family members. Now, fifth, and again, a very, very important skills which I would like to talk about is relationship skills. Now, the ability to establish and maintain a healthy and a meaningful relationships with other. Usually in schools, if we talk about, there is this strategy which is being used. It's called as the rose, bud, and thorn relationship skills strategy, which is often used for the kids. Wherein rose, bud, thorn is a strategy that helps children identify the positive moments and areas where they need support. And during this activity, the students shared so rose would be something positive that happened in this week for me. Bud would be something that you're looking forward to be doing in the next week. And thorn would be that, what is it that's something where you need help perhaps in the next week? So it helps children reflect on what went well, what they need help with, and also help them communicate what they need, help in terms of turning those thorns into roses. So it's a gradual process. It's all about emotions. This is the only way that we can help build resilience amongst our children. Over to you, Dr. Vasavvi.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. That was a clear, overview of this, the core skills that we need to actually teach children from the early years. And I feel, yeah, it's for every school, every educator to, inculcate these skills, allow them to make decisions right from the start, and help them build more self-awareness, self-management, and all of it. Now, coming to Nelly Ahmed. Nelly Ahmed has been working. I mean, she's been in the domain of education for so long, and definitely she can give us a lot of cues on how a facilitator can inculcate socio-emotional skills in children from early years through the Montessori method of teaching. And plus, you can also, Nelly Ahmed, tell us about, there's a slow but steady shift of focus from academics to SEL in preschool. So your comment on that at the end of it. So you can just tell us a few, how we can inculcate socio-emotional skills through Montessori method first. You need to unmute.
that we have been having in the school for the last 30 years, maybe 32 years. And I think that is a very, very scientific way where all of the social skills, social graces, empathy, all that we talked about is all engulfed and encaps between and within the system. So I would like to give a few, highlight the areas where Montessori system makes the children so very comfortable in the prepared environment. The classroom is not a classroom and the teacher is not called a teacher. So the prepared environment is given in such a manner that the child comes to a house of children rather than to a school. And that is the first way we say the school is an extension of the home. Therefore, we call our school Maria Montessori House of Children and not Maria School. When they move on to high school, then it moves on to Maria's Public School. So coming back to Maria Montessori, which is a system of education which was brought about by Dr. Maria Montessori, an Italian lady who worked with disabled children. And from there, she emerged and brought about the greatness in developing the minds of these little children. And how do we go about it in giving the best to them through love and care. Montessori is a method of education that is based on self-directed activity, hands-on learning, and collaborative play. In the Montessori system, children work in groups and individually to discover and explore knowledge of the world and to develop the maximum potential. This leads the child or children to be confident as well as compassionate and cooperative. This enhances the social skills, emotional development, and the important components to live a secure, comfortable, and a resilient life today. With the pandemic on, we are really having a hard time, but our children are taken to the activities which the teachers have given to them, and some of the pictures you have seen, they're doing wonderfully well with their parents. And we are also training the parents to say, please help your child. They are our children as well as your children. And they are so very enthusiastic to be with the kids that it's such a happy activity happening at home. And the teachers are delivering and delivering. And I cannot tell you, the cheers and the kind of laughter we have at the end is because of these little children. As you see, their hands and their minds are working. The activities available to the children in a Montessori classroom are purposive. Now, these activities have a purpose. They're not just playing. The eye and hand coordination is working because they need to prepare the fingers for writing towards the end. And they are doing things which will help them to be resilient and take the changes and be independent workers. They are able to be performed by the children for both selfish and social needs. When children work in this way, they increase the level of independence and come to realize that their actions benefit others. So they're not working alone for themselves, they're working for others as well. So when the child has the skills and the confidence to confront and work through their problems, he learns that he has what it takes to confront difficult times. The more they bounce back on their own, the more they internalize the message that they are strong and capable. Now, as you can see, this little child with the broom and the mop, mopping the floor is a real life experience. And this is what we allow them to do because they have to learn, they have to spill water all over and they will learn how to clean it themselves. And this is the way the exercises of practical life, the social graces, they learn automatically on their own. And this is the Montessori system where actually this environment is available in my home, in the parents' homes and the school. So this is the same way we inculcate these values for the children to be good workers, to be resilient and take the adapt themselves to the changes in this COVID times. Because there's no school, they can't come, they cannot meet their peers. but we meet them online. Here, both the school and home environment are stakeholders in building resilience among children. Parents help their children build resilience and confront uncertainty by teaching them to solve problems independently. While the immediate reaction of a parent in case of an emergency is to help so that the child doesn't feel uncomfortable, this usually weakens resilience. We should never interfere when the child goes wrong. We can guide them from far, we observe them, but let them find out the mistakes themselves. And this mistake they will learn to unwind and relearn, and this will remain with them for life. And that is where resilience comes in, right at the foundation level. Here, both school and the home environment are stakeholders in building resilience among children. Parents can help the children build resilience and confront uncertainty by teaching them to solve problems independently. While the immediate reaction of a parent in case of an emergency is to help so that the child doesn't feel uncomfortable, this usually actually weakens resilience. Children need to experience discomfort so that they can learn to work through it and develop their own problem-solving skills. Usually when we see a child falls and we run to help him to get up, instead we can say, get up, you can manage, you're brave, you're strong, your bones are tough, come on now, stand up on your own. That is where the child's resilience will often be better than a child who is helped constantly. Without this skill set in place, children will experience anxiety and shut down in the face of adversity. Montessori system has opportunities for the children to experiment on problem and problem solving through activity-based learning. And these are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and decision-making. Montessori system has opportunities for the children to experiment on problem and problem solving through activity-based learning, which I've already said. The social and emotional learning program develop 5 key skills which help in building resilient children. And these, which I've already mentioned, are self-awareness, self-management, social relationship skills, and decision-making. Montessori system instills all these learning through EPL. Now, EPL is called the Exercises of Practical Life. So this child, as you see, is pouring grains into small containers, and this is helping the child for eye-hand coordination. And these are practical life activities which they will be handling themselves even later on in life. They also become aware that their own selves, which helps them in problem solving and decision making. Now, the emotional development. Montessori classroom creates conditions that allow children to manifest their natural development propensities. Montessori teachers give attention to individual child, listen, guide, observe, and give the appropriate activity to the child. Now, this is the interesting part of a Montessori system of education, where the child's choice and freedom of choice in working within the classroom environment is given a lot of attention. And we actually listen and we actually respect the child when we get the same respect back from the child. Failure avoiders lack resilience. Embracing mistakes helps promote a strong mindset and gives kids the message that mistakes help them learn. As Montessori system gives enough independence to the child, as I have mentioned earlier, he feels free to own up his own mistakes and learn from it. Children derive so much of joy from constructive activities that satisfy their inner needs. It seems to onlookers that they are only playing, but we know that they are playing, but actually they're learning through that play. And you can see this child is so happy. He was doing the map of India, I mean the flag of India, and putting in with her thumb prints. And this happiness is enough. This is what we want. We don't want a perfect picture. We don't want anything perfect. We want the child to be happy and to be able to deliver what he understands or she understands. So happiness is all that we care for. Being together with peers, teachers, and parents to bring up a resilient child through play-based system of Montessori education. Thank you very much. And I feel very happy to share that these are the happy children that we like to have for the world tomorrow, as they are the ones who will be coming up to be the nation builders. Let's have a better world with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And what do you think? Do you think there's been a steady shift to focus from academics to SEL in preschools? Generally, I'm not talking about your school, but generally, what is your opinion on that?
Oh, definitely. It should be experiential learning. It should be hands-on learning, and it should be more on the practical aspects where children actually handle what are numbers. They're actually running to the environment to see what the trees are, trying to plant something where we have given them enough scope for nature. So the environment itself is a world in their own hands, and that is where the encouragement should come. Definitely the rote learning has to shift to make the different changes for the children's world tomorrow. And I think we need to wake up to the changes our kids are going to face.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this, in-depth, we got a beautiful idea of how your school or any Montessori school gets teaches children empathy, social relationships, how to become self-sufficient, and to learn from their mistakes. So learning resilience through a beautifully planned activity based on experiential learning. So children learn by doing. That's basically the hands-on learning which we all practice. Now coming to Ms. Zareen, you are into storytelling. You are a passionate storyteller. So tell us about the role of storytelling in getting across core messages related to building empathy, resilience, honesty, managing and regulating emotions, etc. in early years. You can highlight the importance of storytelling in early years, Ms. Zareen. Over to you.
Thanks a lot. We are storytellers at Her Story Foundation, and we do it in different forms. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Perfect. So if our stories it's in books, digital books, we're getting into interactive books in different formats. And we also run reading programs in underserved schools around Dhaka. I'd like to start with the story of Kona. She is a super girl who lived in the land of Bengal about 1,000 years ago. And the first book we created was dedicated to the legend of Kona. So she was an astrologer who could foretell the crops by looking at the season, the weather, the stars. And so she became very famous in the land. And there was another astrologer whose name was Varaha Mihira, who became very jealous. And so her tongue was cut off, but Kona did not stop. And she kept on, forecasting. And so her words of wisdom are still live among us. And these are called like Kona's wisdoms. And so basically what we do is we tell these stories in a very child-friendly way, not just this, but many more stories, the stories of resilience, the stories of perseverance, and what can be done, and for children to dream big. And in the content that we create, it's what we embed is the SEL, the social emotional learning, to have the growth mindset, to learn, relearn, persevere, and have motivation to be inspired for something bigger in future. And of course, there's the reading fluency. What we do is, in the context of Bangladesh, because we create content for the mainstream, it's very, we create that content so that it is gender friendly, that it is climate friendly, it inspires you to be respectful, the children to be respectful to each other, to others, to be kind, to have empathy. So what we do is, each story is, a lot of times, I think we have our preconceived notions that get into the storytelling, and we look into it and we retell stories. So I'll give you a few examples. In our culture, when we would read books, it would talk about, usually there's a term in Bangla, it's called Mamar Bari, or when we go on a vacation, we go to our uncle's homes, but so what we try to do is change those narratives. Instead of that, you're going to an aunt's home to normalize that it is okay where a woman is in kind of that dominating role. Also, what the stories talk about, the climate, like respect for not just human beings, but respect for animals. So returning animals to forests, if there's a stray animal that you have found out of the forest and you bring it back, but to kind of tell these stories so the children start thinking and get into that critical thinking and try to solve these problems in an innovative way that enables them to be more responsible as children, but also more responsible as adults, and to be more responsible citizens. And through these discussions, through the readings, and also the discussions that we actually have in classrooms and outside classrooms with the books, what we try to do is bring in those discussions about empathy, about that respecting others. For instance, in Bangladesh, child labor is still prevalent. There are child workers at homes. So the stories would have these, if, for example, a child from a village is coming for work, but then in that circumstances, you as a family, there are decisions being taken, the child becomes a friend, another child goes to a school. And so it shows the children that there can be, like alternative future for themselves, and they can help other build alternative futures as well. So the stories are always have a lot of power, because the stories, I think, are a fantastic way to model children's behaviors. And when we can bring in these positive stories, positive modeling to the children, it enables them to be resilient, to have more empathy. And I'd like to end with a few lines from the book. And for the children, we talk about this because we're still, there are, like in the future, we're still working on property rights in the country and many other issues to bring to children in a very child-friendly way, even when they're very young. So I'll read a few lines. I have so many more stories to share with you. Until girls and boys have equal share of food, books, and land, there is more to be done. Remember, each one of you have the superpower to change the world. Be active, be true, be unstoppable, super vicious. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Zareen, and such wonderful examples. And I was just wondering, even in the northeast of India, we have the floods. So once I met one gentleman who is working with children from Majuli. That's a very interior island, and the children do not even have the basic facilities. But through stories from their parents, they understand that. And through observation, they were telling this gentleman that if the caterpillars get up on the trees, it means that the floods are coming. So, that's how knowledge is shared and how stories help, to understand the basic, to understand nature and how the world goes around, So interesting. So thank you so much, Zareen. And coming to Miss Malaya, uh, you are into education and you are into value education, so tell us a little about how why values should be ingrained in early child right from the start, and that value education should be a part of every preschool curriculum. And we want you to share some strategies related to value education and how to inculcate values in
Yes.
children. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to start by saying that parenting or teaching is just not about a child's physical growth. It has become very much about enhancing his mental health too. We, as parents or teachers, play a pivotal role in forming a child's character and thus eventually having a great impact on how he or she is going to turn out in the future. I think as nations, India and Bangladesh, we're facing the similar kind of social problems like ever increasing rate of violence against women and children, bullying, hate crimes, intolerance. We can see young people as well as adults using foul language all the time, or it could be simply about how we are interacting with each other, all to the elders. Somehow, I think. Lack of moral teaching that should have been instilled in childhood is one of the reasons for this. And why it's important to receive this at an early stage, because studies have shown that children around the age of 2 to 4 understand the concept of what's right and what's wrong. Around the age of 4, they slowly start grasping the idea of empathy. Around the age of 5 to 6, they somewhat understand the moral of story, but how clearly they understand it depends on us, like the way we teach them. And this is something I'll get to later, the techniques. So it is likely that a teenager would want to be lectured about what to do or what not to do. They might end up doing things that they are told not to do. Whereas children not only observe, they also absorb what they see and what they hear. This education should begin once the child enters kindergarten or even earlier, as you said. So that by the time child reaches the middle school, any values, if he or she has learned at least some of it, would be embedded in their mind, and seldom those values can be totally erased from the memories or in his youth. So the most ideal situation is to instill those moral values when the child is still very young. As Robert Falcon writes in his book, all I really needed to learn, I learned in my kindergarten. So why moral values are important? The most obvious answer is that it's because it will eventually determine their adult behavior. It counters bad influence. We all have experienced something called peer pressure on some level at certain stage of our lives. It's normal for children and adolescents to look up to their friends, from the clothing choice to food choice, music choice, etc. But a child armed with a strong core values should be able to decide what to accept and what not to accept from his peers. It will boost their self-confidence. When children do something good to others, they end up feeling good about themselves. In that way, they feel much more secure, and it also teaches them to think about others. Now, let's focus on the topics that need to be taught to them. And after that, we will discuss some techniques. As everybody said, teaching anything is a gradual step. So when they're very young, we need to teach them healthy habits like sharing, compromising, getting along, learning to clean up, listening to teachers, elders, and so on. As they grow a bit older, we need to teach them acknowledgement, cultivate, and finer human traits like empathy, patience, kindness, tolerance, being respectful, and accepting people of various culture and races. Now let's discuss some of the techniques. See, we have to understand that these days the digital lifestyle has taken over almost every aspect of our life, sadly, including parenting and teaching. Sometimes parents are too overworked and too tired to teach their kids personally. In fact, sometimes they let them totally off the hook, and the children are hardly held accountable for any of their actions. So we need to find a way, that is a method that is child-centered and effective, something that children of today can easily connect to. Now, let's talk about method number one. We need to teach them what counts the most. Actually, this method is used in a school in Florida. What they do, they talk to children about different moral traits and ask the students to perform an act based on those traits. For example, kindness. In the class, when they talk about kindness, they're asked to do something based on that idea, which can be easily done by students by giving food to poor people and taking care of stray animals. Actually, at this point, I'd like to share a video. If our VP Rumana Appa, please like to share the video. You have the link.
Yes, Madhya.
Yes, please. It's a very short video.
Yeah. Can you see it?
No, it's not visible. Yeah, it's visible now.
Let me start from the beginning.
Yeah. And make it full screen.
I think that's about it.
Yes. So from the video, you can tell that this method does not only suggest about talking about moral traits, but also encourage students to act upon it. When I was teaching at Singapore International School, in which we had to follow a strict Chinese curriculum, they're really strict about and very adamant about teaching moral values to kids at a very young age. And it was amazing that how we were instructed and to blend these moral values in whatever subject we taught. Even in math, while I was taking math class, somehow I had to incorporate some kind of moral value education to math class. So we were given a basic module for civic and moral education, which I found really useful. So it was up to us teachers to incorporate those values while teaching them different subjects. And this is the basic structure they followed. We had to follow to formulate a sound moral principle. Number one, it focused on cognitive development approach to use moral reasoning to handle situations and not become self-centered. We emphasized on narrative approach, something like what Zareen said, to help students to clarify their thoughts through the process of storytelling and reflection. The consideration approach, by which they will learn to manage by which they learn to manage their personal feelings and behavior pattern. We were instructed to repeatedly tell students to not only think about their individual self only, but also about the well-being of the community as well. Children had to understand the importance of racial and religious harmony. They need to know every citizen counts, and then that they can make a big difference by leading or participating at a service to their community and make their country a better and unique place. So for all these reasons, I think teaching moral values should be a key feature in all school curriculum. As they grow up, they will understand that different value system eventually exists in this world. But the idea is to build a strong set of core set of moral beliefs that's shared amongst all human beings. So educators and government leaders should take firm steps, I think, to integrate moral values and beliefs as a mandatory subject in school. Thank you.
Absolutely, Mala. So very crucial, and it should be a mandatory subject in school. We remember when I was in Holy Child, and Alakananda Das used to be my class teacher in class 8, and we had moral science since we were very young. And when I listened to what you were saying and the lovely video that you played, which was very short, but it spoke volumes.
Yes.
I was just thinking of,
Vasavvi, your video is
I know it's, I think, inverted.
Yeah, thank
Or
you.
yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
there is a difficulty. Well, just a moment. I'll just get this arranged. Is this okay?
Yeah, good now.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, yeah, but I was talking about Aurobindo. Aurobindo talks about, educating the mind, body, and the spirit. We generally talk about the mind and the body, but we don't think about the spirit. So moral education actually helps us, become better individuals, and that is what we need at
Yes.
this hour in this world. We are almost coming to the end of this webinar, and I would ask the attendees if they have any questions. They might type in the chat box. And forward the questions to the speaker. So I open it to the attendees to interact and type out the questions if they have any. We'll wait for that for about a few minutes, probably a minute or so. So if there are any questions, we'll take those before we wind up. Or even they may unmute themselves and ask if they have any questions. I'm not sure if any questions are coming up, but yes, we are in these times of COVID when the schools are closed. So virtually everything is closed, and we are having our online classes. So every school is having this, it's a grill process, I would say, of having online classes and actually getting across, the things that we want to teach our children. So one last quick question to all our speakers. So I'd ask from Jasmine. I'll start with Jasmine. It's she may comment in about 1 to 2 minutes. How are preschools today able to implement socio-emotional learning aspects through online classes? What is your comment on that, Jasmine? Over to you.
Dr. Vasavvi, with remote learning becoming the norm today, SEL has been definitely a high priority. And at the same time, it's a thorny challenge for everybody as an educator. I totally agree on that. But, history has shown that during difficult or challenging times, we always grow, we create, and we invent. And this is exactly what the teachers and the schools across the globe are doing today. The beautiful pictures that Nelly ma'am has shared earlier in her presentation. So those are not just the pictures. These are actually the testimony of efforts made by the teachers to ensure that their children are socially and emotionally strong while they're also learning, while sitting back at home. So in order to facilitate the SEL through distant learning, teachers are doing host of activities, that requires kids to interact with their parents as well as the classmates. Because just look at the scenario. We all are working from home as couples. Our kids are also sharing the same roof. We as adults, we can just pick up our phone and we can just speak with anybody, whether our friends, whether our families, anybody, our colleagues. But what about the kids? The only platform for them to interact with their peer groups as well as teachers is online learning. Or perhaps in between, they get a chance to, do a Facebook call or a WhatsApp call with their grandparents, or maybe once in a while call with their friends. So they also need that kind of a space. They are also learning with the changing times. But it's commendable how the educators all across the globe, they are leaving no stone unturned in terms of ensuring that the education is continued for the children across the globe, and they are not just sitting idle at home. So hats off to all the educators, all the teachers, all the educationists across the globe, because more than ever, this is the challenging time where everybody has earned a lot of respect, not just from the community, but even from the community of the parents as well. Last thing which I would like to say before I close my talk is that Malia has just mentioned some time back in her talk that they want the government to pitch in, where they want SEL to be made implemented at the policy level. And I would also like to say, being the national president of WICCI Elementary Education India today on this platform, is that implementing SEL in the schools in our country is one of our flagship programs that I'm very proud to share today, that we are already at the phase of pilot running it with certain schools in our country. And we would be very, very happy if we would want to have that kind of a partnership with Bangladesh, with Alakananda, and also Dr. Romana being here. So please do give thoughts over it, because the more brains we have, the better reach it would be. So thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Jasmine. And yes, I think the NEP 2020 also is, talking about inculcating social, value education into the curriculum. Yes. Coming over to you, Zareen, your closing comment on SEL implementation through online teaching.
Thank you. I think, as Ms. Jasmine has said as well, teachers across the globe are doing a fantastic job. Like from the teachers who are equipped with the most advanced technologies to those who are using just a phone to reach out to their children. This morning, I'm involved with a school. It's an underserved school in Chittagong, and it's 60. They could get 60% of their students from playgroup to grade 5 into online learning. But there was another 40% who weren't there, but the teachers were reaching out to them. And so I think that's what matters. And there were issues with some of the students, because they come from a very, more disadvantaged background. So the parents have to go to work and a lot of times can't provide that attention. So there were issues of sometimes children not waking up in the morning. So teachers would wait, make those phone calls to wake them up. And so what it shows is that it builds those connections. In the normal times, this wouldn't have happened. They would just come to school and attend. But I think now teachers are going out of their way to make those connections, to build those connections, and that is definitely helping. And I think we are coming up with innovative solutions in the country. What's happening is to interact with the children. It's, those who have Zoom or Google Meet, they are using those. But there's these other, text-based methods that they're using to kind of exchange messages. Or at the end of the day, they're sending that, I'm okay, it was a good day. And these things matter as well to kind of connect to the community. So this has been, I think, a great time of learning, but also a time of opportunities and exploring opportunities to come more innovative, to bring in more innovations in this area of teaching and SEL, incorporating that into education in more innovative ways.
Thank you, Zareen. Over to you, Ms. Nelly Ahmed.
I, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I have something very much similar to say like others. Like in this challenging time, we have to embrace the new normal. There's no other way but to go digital when it comes to learning. So I'm sure that the teachers are doing their best, but I think at this point, parents should come forward and play a much more proactive role in it, in order to help the teachers as well, because I think parents are biggest educators themselves. A word that comes from a father's mouth, a mother's mouth, children are more likely to be convinced by that. I'll experience one personal. I will share one personal experience. My elder son, when he was in school, I think up to first grade, he had a subject called moral education. But by the time my younger son started going to school, they have taken it off the syllabus. So that's why I think the burden is, it's not burden, it's the responsibility is more onto us as parents to teach them. I think the technique, number one, that I shared, that give them the ideas and act upon those ideas, that can be easily done from home. And that's why we need to like keep on thinking about new, innovative, and efficient and effective methods to teach our children.
Thank you, Malay. And over to you, Nelly Ahmed.
Yeah.
Your closing comments on this.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. And this has been a wonderful session, Dr. Vasavvi. Thank you, Bangladesh chapter, for being here. We have heard such lovely things from you all, and I think we need to collaborate and learn more from you all. And coming to the point where we are, Vasavvi is asking, well, what did you ask, Vasavvi?
Implementing socio emotional learning through the online classes. You have already given us a beautiful a demo on that, but then your quick comments before we finish.
Yeah, that has been wonderful because the teachers go overboard and they're really working overtime. They don't check how long they've been working at it. And secondly, I myself reach out to parents along with the children, and you don't know how excited they get. And that is the bonding I would like them to have, Because of this online situation, I make it a point of connecting with them. And that is where their resilience, their security, their faith is there in the school, because they say that, oh, Nelly ma'am has spoken to us today, and the excitement knows no bounds. But you see, it may not be possible all the time, but it's very important to connect with the children most of the time through online. And that is what keeps them secure, safe, and happy. And I'll tell you something, Vasavvi, when we started the school, I mean, they take children to admission, and believe me, they didn't even know who their class teacher was. They didn't know what the school looked like. It was such a sad circumstance. So we made it a point that teachers had their pictures put up and say, hello, Arnav, I'm your ma'am, I'm your teacher. And that's how we connected. And that connection has made the bonding even stronger now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, we can, I can summarize this as, physical schooling may stop for months, but learning never stops. There's no end, there's no stop to, no full stop to learning at all. It goes on, and it's all about, how we motivate little ones and how we initiate them into learning. So that is very, very important. And yes, kudos to all the teachers, all the educators who have dedicated their time, and this has been really trying times, and yet everybody succeeded. So a big cheers to them. And we have come to the end of this webinar, and now I request Dr. Romana Dwala to give her vote of thanks.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to be here with you all today. First of all, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the teachers and whoever is involved in improving learning for children. I think that is what we have to do to build a nation which we want to look forward to. And why we are talking about this today is because of a discussion. So before that, before I go into it, I'd like to thank Bangladesh India Bilateral Education Board, and especially President of India Bangladesh Bilateral Council of WICCI, Ms. Alakananda Das, for organizing this, for bringing us all together on this platform. And we had this small discussion when during our first meeting of this education board, and we wanted to bring forward something which will be a stepping stone to many good work, I believe. From today's panelists' discussion, I think it's been very clear to us what we have amongst us is amazing entrepreneurs and experienced teachers who bring probably decades of experience with them, maybe more. Mrs. Alakananda is teacher to one of our speakers, I believe. So this wealth of information that we have and knowledge that we have, I think we must utilize to form something which we had discussed before, Indo-Bangla platform, which can be virtual now. And most of you are already doing digital teaching. I think we can make our learning platforms available to the children and their parents. So I'll briefly go through the discussions just to summarize what we heard today. Um, our moderator, Vasavvi Acharya, did mention how important it is and the learning that starts from as early as the fetal stage and the early learning, which is so important today. And each of you have emphasized on this. Miss Nelly Ahmed has talked about the Montessori method of teaching. Her vast experience in this area was apparent to us, and we learned how important it is to inculcate this in early teaching method. Miss Jasmine Kaur, she talked about all the key learning areas like self-awareness, decision making, um, the self management, social awareness, relationship skills, and decision making. I think most of you, Jasmine Kumar, also you have mentioned this. So I think there are many messages which are coming to us, which is so important for early teaching and early learning in children, so that they grow up to be uh, a better human being. Miss Zareen Mahmood Hussain, she has mentioned Connor Bochon. That's how we, use. I think some of you are from Assam. You may be aware of her. Kona is known to both East and West Bengal, and how the stories have been told and have been brought to the children, the good things, and also when how you can overcome barriers. Even in those days, they could utilize this. Like there were adversaries, and even then the teaching went on through Kona's stories, and also child-friendly stories, which has been used to build resilience and perseverance. Also how the we always use the word mamar badi jabo. This used to be the basic way, and how she has also brought into the importance of a female figure, like mamir badi, or maybe khalar badi. That's how important it is to the gender equality. We can start thinking about it from early stage by giving this small introductions early in the learning stage. I think we have learned a lot. I have learned a lot myself. That's why I truly, truly admire teachers. What you can do, no one else can do. uh, After those early years, we can only try. We don't know how much influence we can have over children and adolescents that we have taught in later years in other subjects maybe. And the important thing I wanted to bring about here is that, we talked about Montessori method, which is Italian, but can we just recollect where we are? we are all from the Indian subcontinent here. We don't have any foreigners here. You know, the learning and teaching that we had in our subcontinent, I think we had the best one. How environmental friendly it was. It was under the trees. We have changed ourselves so much. We used to go to the nature and learn from our teachers. I'm talking about the ancient traditional teaching method that we had. And we used to teach about traditions, customs, rituals, religions, and balance between human beings and nature. Also, we were taught to fulfill the duty towards self, towards family, towards society. The importance of learning was not just based on having a job or being successful or earning money. Learning was to be a good person, a good person who is doing good things to the family, to the society, and eventually for the nation. I think it was so, so important. And these key skills that you talk about, if we start respecting the nature, respecting cultures, respecting races, we will build a strong relationship. So let us not forget that Indian or subcontinental tradition, the traditional learning, if we can just go back, revisit, read about it, and can we bring it back into some of our learning where moral teaching was so very important? Being a good human being was so very important. Like Malaya has mentioned, I was shocked when I saw there's no moral teaching. We had moral teaching in our classes. People think it's old dated, it's not required, you know, backdated and not required. It's not true. I'm a physician, I've been a working mother, and from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., children were at school. Parents don't really get the time. I'm sorry that I'm saying this. I don't know if parents tell you this. Working parents don't get quality time to teach certain things. Children are away most of the time. And when they come back, they're tired. And unless they have homeworks to do, you know, yes, little things they learn from watching the environment. So the lot of the time is taken away from by the school. So we also look at school uh, to help them teach our children how to be a good human being. So, thank you so much for sharing all your experiences. And I look forward to Bangladesh India collaboration on this. And we already have quite a few digital learning systems in place from India and Bangladesh. I know Zareen has worked on it. Stories would be a nice way to learn, and I think, please, if someone, maybe in our next session, webinar, can we hear something about the ancient learning system? So, in the Indian way, or maybe we can look, it's our subcontinent who has been same. So, we can look into it, and can we share this? And how can we bring this back again into our system? I would
Sure.
really, really like this to happen. Thank you so much.
Sure,
Thank you.
Ramona, we'll look into that for the next webinar.
Yes, and thank you so much to all the speakers. And we wind up our webinar today here. And I wish everybody a very great evening ahead. And namaskar from Dr. Vasavvi. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, everyone.
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.